This message is for the former consciousness that was Nipsey Hussle. Look, all these events that are going on, even the marathon events that's going on, who are they funded by? I guarantee they're funded by the synagogue of Satan. They give you gifts in exchange for your life force energy, and that's all they're trying to do through these events is harvest energy. I don't think it's a coincidence that these last events had violence. You know, they're showing it on TV. That's because they have to. These are how the negative, nefarious agenda beings operate. They gather a bunch of people and then generate a bunch of discord, lower self frequencies, so that they can feed. And guess what? It's not going to work. Every event connected to the consciousness formerly known as Nipsey Hussle, because we got to understand these are just fragments of our consciousness that incarnate for specific reasons, purposes, and timelines. So all events that have been orchestrated for energy harvesting around the consciousness formerly known as Nipsey Hussle and his family, because they're using his brother right now. That's the thing about the great God, Universal Allah's, with children, dogs, aka gods. Like, the male vessels are so extremely gullible. You know, I have a feeling that it has to do with the chromosomes or something, like the female vessel having access to more, what would I say? More wisdom, I would say. Some, not all, obviously, because some female vessels are still vessels of Satan, and they're still unevolved souls, right? So unevolved souls are also subject to the tricks of these. This is what the great God, Universal Allah, called spiritual wickedness in the higher dimensions. That's all these events are: dedication ceremonies. We're naming this, this and that after. When they create these gatherings, including, funeral processions, didn't the great God, Universal Allah, say through Yahweh Shai, let the dead bury the dead? What did that mean? That had so many meanings, but what did that really mean? Let the dead bury the dead. So your funerals are energy harvesting portals. Portals get open because there's a intense amount of, from numerous people, there's an intense amount of fear-based energy. This is what they feed off. So it's no surprise that these events, I saw a headline about the Rolling 60s crashing out and arguing with, I'm not going to call him Black Sam, because black, according to science, means death, right? I'm not going to generate that. So, arguing, coming there to start fights with Sam. Either way, Sam is still connected with his brother through the genuine love that they shared. And that's being exploited and profited off of because, look, the consciousness formerly known as Nipsey Hussle is in life review, preparing for reincarnation. He said that. He said this is a marathon. You go on and 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 on. That aspect of his consciousness has not settled the debts accrued from his incarnation. Obviously, all of us born in that age of Pisces, we was born in a sin. We was born under a regime that let 1% have their freedom, have the fruit of the earth, have the resources of the earth, while the 99% had to grind. Look at what him and his brother had to do just to make it, whatever you want to call it. If you call that making it, just to make it into a satanic industry. And again, their intent, because they are vessels of righteousness, right? So their intent was pure, was always for the upliftment of humanity. They also were wise enough to know, because of previous incarnations, but they're also wise enough to know that this world, that world was based in sin. And that's why in that verse, when P. Diddy was in the recording studio with the consciousness formerly known as Nipsey Hussle, that's why when Nipsey Hussle said it's the infiltration, he got the weirdest look on his face. That's when him and Lauren London were in the studio. Him, Lauren London, Nipsey, and some other people, and Cassie were in the studio. And it was an inside joke on the consciousness formerly known as Nipsey Hussle. He didn't know that he was the inside joke. Like, that's Satan's favorite child. Satan is not going to let a vessel of righteousness just infiltrate his shit. They liken the consciousness formerly known as Nipsey Hussle as a cult leader. That means he had an extreme amount of influence over the people, over the melanated people, and him coming from a royal bloodline. That's a double, triple threat to a satanic industry that is operating off of the fear-based manipulation and control. So we want to call it a divine court hearing and a divine transfer. Look, we're in the age right now. We're in the age, a new age of Aquarius. We shouldn't be getting mad at anything at this point. We should just be calling in divine court hearings. All right, I learned that from contrast, for contrast purposes. Abraham Hicks, and I don't know his wife, I don't know the name because I haven't heard it in a long time. They do they do rampages on the concept of learning through contrast, which in a world of duality, in a world of polarity, that's what you signed up for. That's what I signed up for upon incarnating on earth. We agreed to be born into sin. Be born into sin how? Well, be born into sin through incarnating into a negative polarity where Satan had dominion to create. Now, I'm not going to get into all of that and why and why that was so, but we're all learning a lot through contrast. Through all of my suffering, trials, and tribulation, I got to really experience for myself the saving power of the great God, Universal Allah. I got to experience that firsthand. Being in diverse trials and tribulations, and the only one that could get me out, the only one that could assist me, to help me, to save me, to keep me from going crazy, from keep me from, even down to bring me back from physical death. That's right, hovering over my physical body, watching a lifeless body being tormented by satanic doctors that handcuffed me to a bed and kidnapped me, by the way. So listen, the consciousness formerly known as Nipsey just chose not to come back from that. He could have came back from that sacrifice, right? But guess what? I guarantee when he crossed over, he was informed of all of the betrayals around him on a daily basis, and he wanted to do something more impactful. So he has another spot, another place in this new world, assisting with this shift, because certain angels of Allah don't have the frequency to withstand these very dense and heavy earth frequencies. So the great God universal Allah even enlists the service of what you want to call jinn. Demons and angels are synonymous because they're just opposite polarities, and some are both. Some are angels and some are demons at the very same time. Why? Because we are in judgment time. We are in we are closing out the end of an age, the end of a cycle, a satanic era of time. We're closing out a satanic era of time. What the Bible, the basic instructions before leaving earth, refers to as the end of the world. But in Hebrew, that being too much of a frequency gap with the English bastard language, because look, the Europeans created a bunch of bastards. How many single parent homes was created from the influence and the persecution of the European, right? So we want to call in a divine cohering for that, and a divine transfer for all of the single the parent bastards that were created, that are causing just recycling harm, because that is the universal law of cause and effect. So we want to call in a divine cohering and a divine transfer, right? So my nation is we're officially out of slavery, and that's why that's another reason why they keep having these events and all this violence and chaos and ruckus is breaking out, because they don't want the consciousness formerly known as Nipsey breaking out of spiritual prison. You have to settle your debts on the other side. If you don't settle your debts, if you leave here in trauma and fear and betrayal and grief and sin against the great God universal Allah, you have to settle your debts on another plane of existence somewhere else. That's what we call spiritual prison. There are people in spiritual prison on earth. I've been in spiritual prison for 20 years. My story is Joseph. The great God universal Allah didn't have to send me to a physical prison for that long. I went in spiritual prison. That's where it's the same feeling that it generates as a regular prison, right? Like you're trapped. This is why these rappers, these trappers, they are called trappers. Why? Well, because they signed up to generate a extremely low frequency with trap music and extremely low frequency lyrics. Because guess what you can do? If you can listen to something on a repeat for 15 minutes, if you can program the subconscious mind, with the subconscious mind create your reality, what do these trappers become responsible for, accountable for? When you're talking about life sentences, I ain't talking about with I was gonna say Esau, with I'm not talking about what the European gives, because that still comes with, just, I mean, they can watch TV, they can go through class and schools and eat food, and most male vessels prefer male company anyway. It's like a wolf pack mentality. No, these spiritual prisons, you have to literally, the angels of the great God universal Allah that record every thought, word, and deed, they open that book on you, and they play everything that was written concerning your incarnation in reality. You get to see everything as it truly happened. Not like, Nip thought he was, he thought he was doing a service to the people around him, but the people around him, he's describing as bloodthirsty hyenas. He had his friends were his foes. I'm talking about down to the baby mama. She was sent as a honeypot, line-up female, a vessel of Satan, because look, Satan already knew that the consciousness formerly known as Nipsey Hussle was playing both sides. He already knew that the consciousness formerly known as Nipsey Hussle was only for the economic empowerment and freedom of the melanated. The great God universal Allah scripted them as, I'll use this word because that's what everybody is used to, but they were supposed to be, I'm saying if they would have followed the great God universal Allah script, I believe it all had to do with his gang affiliation and involvement, and I think that was the point of no return, because that's like a deep they run parts of the industry. Not to say run it, but they're involved in a lot of the politics in the industry. So it's like he couldn't really escape that life. But, the great God universal Allah scripted for them. They were the black Steve Jobs. Like, that's how genius they were on course to be. And all of that, Marathon Burger, all of that shit, that's like, if somebody knows you, you could if someone knows, if an empire of a dynasty that has interest in controlling the world knows that you, 1 to 2 people, because it was the 2 brothers, can rule a world, can literally create a whole empire, and they can actually free a nation through economic empowerment. Because we don't know what the technological advances would have led to. He was he was opening up the Vector 90, and they had this smart store. They did smart better than damn near better than Elon Musk and all these robot technologies, because how he tailored it to the melanated. See, Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk needs melanin to do any space mission, to catapult that rocket ship into outer space. He needs melanin. The consciousness formerly known as Nipsey Hussle had access to that melanin, right? So are we surprised that they were targeted individuals, that they were enemies of the state? like I self am or was, because look, the roles have reversed. The great God, Universal Allah, is hunting. And the great God, Universal Allah, doesn't have to hunt. The great God, Universal Allah, sits pretty, calls shots, calls orders. We, the angels of Allah, handle the great God, Universal Allah's dirty work. But the great God, Universal Allah, is divinely ordering hellhounds. These are literal hellhounds these are from all types of dimensions. I'm talking about, these are like the creatures that they show, like it'll have like a lion head with wings, or these majestic creatures. They're being literally sent to earth to hunt the hunters, those in charge of these black operations and gang stalking operations that have hunted me in Hunger Games right on the street. I know a targeted individual when I see one, because I went through it and I go through it myself, right? So I know that they were targeted individuals, and I know that his brother still is. But if you go along with their program, they'll leave you alone for the most part. They'll support you to keep you dumbed down so you don't do the divine will, so that you do not do the divine intent that the great God, Universal Allah, scripted for you. This is a world of duality. This is a world of polarity. Absolutely. You can take the great God, Universal Allah script for you, or you can take Satan's script for you. Satan, again, is going to give you the gifts, but it's going to come with a lot of fear-based energy, compromising contracts. The consciousness formerly known as Nipsey Hussle he was in so many death contracts that he did not even know that he was being trolled by the whole synagogue of Satan industry. Who does the great God, Universal Allah, to? The great God, Universal Allah, refer to as the synagogue of Satan. Who? Those that are operating out of Hollyweird are the synagogue of Satan. They have prophets, they have sorcerers, they have soothsayers, they have script writers. Their script writers do not just write scripts for movies, productions. They actually write prophecies and scripts for, it could be anyone that is messing with the family business. And again, that's a family business. You got to do the works, great works for Satan, because he's a copycat. He's the chief copycat. And the great God, Universal Allah, already told you, to whom much is given, much is required. He also he requires blood and sacrifice to anyone he gives gifts to. And it gets to that point where, certain vessels of righteousness, even though they may be accepted initially, they're not willing to go with that satanic agenda. And boom, that's when they get sacrificed. And then, you know what? And I know exactly what that feels like, because I got a chance to escape the confines of being raised in a pretty small town, or rural areas, a mix between city and country, but close enough to places like your cities like Camden, your cities like Philly, your cities like Atlantic City. So I got to get the both of best worlds. So that allowed me to have an expansive enough mind to seek out greener pastures and expand my horizons. Most of the melanated in the ghetto don't have that opportunity because of the way that the cities, the concrete jungle, these cement jails are engineered by the European. They're engineered because, look, let's go back to the science of the subconscious mind. Somebody can do another video on that. Somebody can do a video on the science behind the subconscious mind, how everything that you see from your ocular, from your lens, from your eyes, your soul is recording that 24/7. So when you're raised in a concrete jungle, in a city, in a hood, a ghetto, you're programming your consciousness for narrow-mindedness, narrowness, restriction. Everything is so confined and restricted. Cement blocks you from the electrical pulsation of the earth. They're not even getting the proper sunlight. They don't really have a chance. My nation doesn't really have a chance in that type of environment. So that's why I'm grateful to great God, Universal Allah, for putting me in an environment where I had the best of both worlds. To be able to say, you know what? I'm leaving. It's something bigger out here. It's something better out here. I got to go. I got on the road. I went to the West Coast. I went to one of the highest frequency places. And again, if it's one of the highest frequency places on this land, then obviously it has the potential to be one of the lowest frequency places on this land, because we do live in a world of polarity. We do live in a world of duality. So I got to experience the best of both worlds there. Places like California. Why? Look at all the mountains, the open road, the open highways when you go there, right? Well, these mountains, they have crystalline structures in them. These are technologies in the mountains, the same crystals that are in your cell phones, in your computers. Platinum is in one of them, in the computers or something like that, I don't know, or phones. Crystals are in our brains, but see, just like you got to turn on the phone, right? These frequencies have to be activated within self, and that's what's being blocked and suppressed by my nation stuck in a ghetto, in a hood. So we want to call a divine court hearing and a divine transfer to that. I want everyone involved in the engineering, the architecture and construction of ghettos to trap the melanated, indigenous, Asiatic, Moorish American, Native, so-called Black, Negro, colored, African American, copper being. Nah, that's against the law. I call it a divine court hearing. Why they not giving us the best of the land back? The ones that was here when the European came here. Why they giving the pale skin? And I don't have nothing against them, except for the ones that assisted the European. But look, my grandpa, Geronimo Apache military leader, he refused to back down. He was a paler skinned Indian, native. So this is against the ones that assisted you, the European. And I have some type of theory that's who they're giving land back to. What about the so-called blacks? Where is our land back? Where is our land back? Why are we stuck? I'm talking about as a nation, you know what I mean? Not me. I'm getting out. You're not keeping me in no ghetto for not too long. I go in and out, in and out. But why we not getting our beach cities back? I subject every beach city to the wrath of Allah, because it's being kept. The best parts of the ancestors' land are being kept from the melanated, the natives to this land, the indigenous, the Asiatics, Moorish American, so-called Black, Negro, color, African American. Negro meaning four-legged animal. Is this budget, this government budget, just for the pale-skinned Indians? What? There were, I'm talking about the darkest melanated beings here. Where are allotments at? So that's a divine court hearing and a divine transfer, as well as all involved, seen, unseen, behind the scenes, multi-dimensionally in the construction, engineering, and architecture of ghettos for the purposes of locking the consciousness down of the melanated, the so-called black. Because look, again, let's go back to the science of the subconscious mind. Let's go back to the science of the subconscious mind, how everything that you see is recorded in the subconscious mind. There is an age where whatever themes and patterns you are going to repeat. Oh, I meet the same girl every time. I meet the same guy every time, because you're attracting. This is law of cause and law of attraction, excuse me. A like attracts like. What you are energetically programmed with it has to, by law, manifest in your physical reality. So if you are running abandonment programs because the Europeans consciously split the melanated family up, now you're running abandonment rejection programs from your default program. What are the statistics on what age melanated so-called black fathers normally leave? They probably before birth. Now you're running abandonment and rejection programs, and now you attract people, situations, things, experiences of abandonment and rejection. This cycle starts and continues. It starts from the ages of 0 to 7, 0 to 7, 0 to 8. Could be longer. Who knows? But from birth until childhood, your default program is installed, and that is the karmic loop that you play out. If you were programmed in poverty consciousness, life may always seem like a struggle, or you may have to do illegal things to obtain resources or finances. And the list goes on and on. So again, the divine, what is it? The design. I don't know how to say that, but this is just a divine court hearing and a divine transfer for the divisive tactics of fear that was brought upon our nation to keep us in karmic loops of just all types of fear-based energy, like poverty consciousness. If you stuck, single parent household, abandonment, rejection. Look, this is the time for the divine transfer. We're transferring that back to right, because the great God universal Allah said, you have suffered, you have served your sentence through suffering. Suffering produces patience. Your time, your ancestors' time of slavery, your time of slavery is over. The great God universal Allah is opening up the keys to your mental conscious prison, your confines, your restrictions. and telling you you are free. I don't care even if you had a pretty sane, we'll call it sane existence like myself, besides having to be separated from the great God, universal Allah. That's trauma in its own. That's trauma right there. That's all the trauma I needed. So the great God took it easy on me. I didn't have too much trauma growing up, right? Praise Allah. And the great God is saying that even if you didn't necessarily consciously suffer, you as a melanated, Asiatic, indigenous, Moorish American, Muslim, what the European calls black, Negro, color, African American, in 1774, that label was placed upon our nation. On your record, on a United States corporation record, that can be verified by anyone. That is from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Moorish Science Temple of America. Look, your ancestors suffered great, and for a hefty amount of time and space, and that is, and we in this right now on earth are a byproduct of that. So the great God, universal Allah, has said you have served your sentence through suffering, whether it was your ancestors, your bloodline and lineage. You are that assigned vessel here right now to transmute the torture DNA, the fear DNA from slavery, so that you can free your ancestral bloodline, free yourself physically, free yourself spiritually and physically in the mind. Because guess what? Although slavery was abolished in the past, not every melanated so-called black chose it. Some was like too scared and chose to stay in slavery. That's the choice you have here. But the ancestors are being raised from Sheol, from the grave, from the lower dimensions, the dimensions where they departed from, in all kinds of fear-based energies. But most people are lost in a world of satanic entertainment to care at all. So you go on to another plane of existence. Well, first you're gonna have to go through the Great Tribulation. Because all fear has to come up on this earth to collapse these fear-based timelines. A new earth is being formed in the physical, and all fear has to come up. If you're not getting rid of it, it will be coming up in that Great Tribulation. That's a real time, it's a real event on the calendar of humanity. So the great God, universal Allah, opened up the keys to our cells and said, "Come out of her, my people, so that you do not be a partaker in her sins." So the great God, universal Allah, sends firefighters and sends the real police, because they're officially, the great God, universal Allah, said there are no police on this earth. The great God, universal Allah, said they were sworn in under an oath to their father Satan. Satan, get your children. Get your children. Call them home. Because they're out here looking like universal criminals now. The great God, universal Allah, said they're criminals. The great God, universal Allah, said they were sworn in as peace, P-E-A-C-E officers, as public servants. And they're running around here usurping all of this authority that was not intended for them. And a lot of fear and injustice is being perpetuated and generated from it. So they threw me in jail for impersonating someone because I had my Moorish American identification, because I had my Moorish American appellation, Bey, Infinity Bey. I'm a Bey. I'm a Ali. I'm a Bey. I'm a El Ali Bey. Right? They threw me in jail for so-called impersonating somebody because I had an expired commercial driver's license with my government issued name. But that's not my natural person. I'm a natural person. So I have my Moorish American identification that classifies me as Cherokee.